All right, so imagine, if you will, you're a brand new single board computer customer, or even maybe you've been adopted to the hobby. You've had a Raspberry Pi 2, you've had a Raspberry Pi 3. You come across a video on YouTube and somebody is touting the next single board computer as being better than the other, or equivalent, or even offering it as an alternative. You go out, you buy that single board computer. Maybe you bought a new Banana Pi, Orange Pi, maybe an Odroid device, or then you find out maybe after a few months or maybe a couple of years or so that support isn't just exactly not there. It's probably behind maybe a year or two behind the Raspberry Pi or maybe another similar device that you are familiar with. However, we have on the left the Raspberry Pi 4. We got two different models here. We got the Pi 4 8 GB and 4 GB model. And we also have the Orange Pi 5 right next to it. Now that thing is definitely a beast. I got some more information about that. But in today's video, I definitely want to talk to you about why a lot of single board computer videos are misleading, and some of the steps that you guys can do to prevent yourselves from either getting had or being led down astray to where maybe development for that particular single board computer won't be available for months, sometimes years, and in other cases, sometimes never. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so you guys know for quite some time now we've been covering single board computers. I've personally worked with the Pi 3, Pi 3B Plus, Odroid, Orange Pi as of right now, and a couple of others as well. I believe I also worked on the Jetson too. And so, as you guys know, there's been a lot of misleading videos that are out there. I don't believe they are intentional, but one of the things that I've always had a saying about recently is that you don't know much about a single board computer until you get until development. So one of the other Supreme members messaged today on the Orange Pi group, why is there so many audio issues with Armbian? Debian for the Orange Pi 5. What do I mean by this? I've done so much research and there is no auto select for Pulse or also sound drivers confirmed by other developers. Always needing to manually set sound by adding lines to etc asound.config or Pulse in ALSA configuration files. Some examples when using HDMI for audio: PacMD set default -sync 2, PacMD set default sync ALSA underscore output dot platform dash HDMI O dash sound stereo fallback. We share this as we had to build a custom script to communicate to the video drivers to auto detect HDMI input. That's one of the things we've been encountering on in development with the Orange Pi 5. That's specifically what this post is about. And the reason why I bring it to everyone's attention is because, again, you will see many videos, people get a brand new single board computer. The first thing they will do is they will download a bunch of emulators strictly to the desktop and show you what emulation performance you'll get from that single board computer strictly from desktop. They won't use Batacera, RetroPie, for example. CoinOps is I'm just using that as an example, even though I know that's not on a lot of the single board computers. But you guys get the point, maybe Jellios and so forth. And the reason why they prevent from doing that, or they can't do it, is because full development hasn't taken place yet. And again, you don't know exactly what you're getting into with a single board computer because you have not had any type of development, or the reviewer has not waited several months, whatever the case might be, to do a review. And I understand it because I've even had a company myself. They reached out to me. They asked me if I would like to demo a single board computer. I said yes, and I asked them what would they like to see on that single board computer, and they said, well, just run the desktop and show everybody how good it is. Now, one of the issues with that is typically to show the full performance of a single board computer, you have to usually run games on it, and that's not an ideal scenario because the desktop environment is actually different than what the gaming interface will actually look like. I'll get into that a little bit later, but let's go ahead and read this. So one of the responses from Charlie Scott: the reason is the kernel code provided by Orange is generally poor quality. This is imported into any Linux distribution and cannot be maintained or modified by users. Kiodiekin, there will be updates and it will improve. It's worth logging any bugs you can identify. I think they literally only have one kernel developer and he greases the squeakiest wheel. I have engaged before and had issues resolved, but it can take a year or more for fixes to roll upstream and back down to public maintained distro. So what this means is one of the issues that we're encountering, and for those of you who are familiar with RetroPie, those are your video loading screens, your splash. If you guys are familiar with when you load up your RetroPie, you see an image or it shows you a video. That originally was not native to RetroPie. They eventually added it full support. And then, of course, you guys are familiar with that. You add your videos and whatnot. But right now, we've been having issues with that. And so I use this as an example for you today is because most reviewers and most single board computer videos that you watch will say, hey, the Orange Pi is just like the Pi 4, or it's just like this other device, the Odroid or whatnot. And as you can see, we are now 8 months into development, almost going into 9, and this is exactly how far we've gotten. And I can tell you that this type of issue has not happened before on either Odroid or any other single board computer that we have worked with and ported over RetroPie to. Even if you compared or added up the lump sum total of development from the Pi 4, trying to get that to boot to Odroid, we've not spent this much time trying to get some of these basic things to work. And so this is very important because so you guys have some type of identifying factor to know that this is not as equal as another device. Let's look at this again. Charlie Scott says it's worth logging any bugs you can identify. Now remember, we can only log bugs if there's initially any type of development or support. The only reason why we are getting this far is because I ordered some Orange Pi 5s on Amazon. This is not officially supported by the RetroPie team, for example. And so we're only getting this far because we're able to get it to boot. Most people can't get RetroPie to boot on single board computers, especially the Orange Pi 5. And then again, he continues on and said he greases the squeakiest wheel. I have engaged before and had many issues resolved, but it can take a year or more for bugs to fixes to roll upstream and back down to public. So apparently this Orange Pi only has one dev working on kernels. Typically for most kernels, you usually have about anywhere between 200 to 800 people, let's say for example at Microsoft, working on a kernel in order to get it to work. Orange Pi only has one. And secondly, this guy is giving me an estimated time frame that it would work maybe in a year. Maybe in a year. You would never have this type of issue with the Raspberry Pi. Now, again, I do know that RetroPie is native to the Raspberry Pi synopsis, but just to give you, Mr. Customer, or somebody looking forward to working on a project, again, even though something like this may take a year, this is only acknowledgeable because we've gotten this far. Has somebody else probably tried to start working on a RetroPie image or trying to port it over, let's say in another month or two, or maybe another year, they would only know this information or possibly have updates and fixes from that year on. This is why no other company, no other reviewer can equally say that another single board computer is an alternative to another one, because there may just not be any development or support for that. So let's go ahead and see what else they have to say. Christopher Sentes, RBN said, is a community maintained operating system and the Orange Pi 5 is very fresh. Give it some time. We intend to do so, definitely. But again, keep in mind, you average consumer will not know this type of information. You're probably going to think that it's just like a Raspberry Pi 4, Raspberry Pi 3, where there's a community support. Maybe you can install a few applications and everything is good to go. And maybe there's a few hiccups that may take a couple of days or weeks to fix. But I don't think you're anticipating something to possibly be fixed or additional support within the next year or maybe a year and a half. Let's take a look at another comment. Why is there so many audio issues with Army and Debian 5? What do I mean by this? It's the same thing. I just copied and pasted from another group. And so I believe this guy here, Igor can't pronounce his last name, is one of the devs for Armband. He says, we'll develop a script and integrate it. This is something that's just coming to their attention. So imagine, again, if we never decided to try to work with RetroPie, porting it over to the Orange Pi 5, or having some type of development. They weren't aware of this particular issue. Again, a single board computer is only equal to the dev teams and the development that goes behind it. In every review you will see everyone just sitting around talking about how great the hardware specs are. They will take a YouTube video, compare that to the 4K audio or the 4K H.264 and 265 video compression, and use that as their benchmark and say, hey, this will compare maybe to Raspberry Pi 4 or to another type of single board computer. And it's not the case, because you have no idea how long it may take to integrate this type of software, or integrate a script, or integrate a kernel in order for you to move to the next level in your development. Right now, we're working with something simple. We've got a lot of other emulators working. In fact, it took some time to get most of the emulators compiled, but emulation compilation on a single board computer is not automatic. And so this is one of my pet peeves. This is one of the things I wanted to bring to light to the community for those of you making purchases on single board computer, because you will have many individuals tout a single board computer, say, hey, we'll have it ready in a month, and they're telling you exactly what it can run, what it can do, and they spent no time in development. This is where we are right now. And again, this gentleman says, he gives us an estimated timeline that this might not be fixed or resolved for another year or more. Who has that kind of time to wait for a single board computer to get developed to where you think that it needs to be? If the single board computer, it comes across a glitch in this particular case, and it's not ready for a year or more, and you need to work on a project or get an application running maybe for a company and or for a business or for a personal project, you probably would have been better off buying something else. Because who's going to wait around? You pay $120 for a single board computer. You expect it to work, and you have to wait a year for additional support. That's not a good thing. And of course, this is something that we tinker with. We love having fun with it. Right now, I believe for us, this is something minor, just trying to get the video load screens and the splash screen videos to work. But this could have been another serious matter while we're in development. And we're 8 months in, or well, actually, you know what? Let's see, the Orange Pi 5 came out November, around December. I think, that's when people did their pre-order, so you guys can do the math on that. We're going into September, and we're only running into these issues is because we decided to do something for the community, test out the power of the Orange Pi 5, and port something over. We never would have foreseen something this small being an issue. And it's not an issue in terms of performance, but again, this is like a 1-1 scenario. If you were to ask me which one is better, or what can one single board computer do to the next, Raspberry Pi 4 or the Orange Pi 5, it's apples and oranges. You're not comparing apples and apples. You're not getting a 1-1 scenario, because something like this doesn't happen on a lot of single board computers. And I know that RetroPie is native to the Pi 4, but again, these are the issues that we're running into just to try to get the same program running on another single board computer type device. But what you'll hear in most videos is that, oh, it's the same thing. And there's many programs out there. And yes, there are many programs out there, but remember, most of these applications are maintained and supported by tinkerers like myself, other gamers in the community, other programmers that love to work on these things. It's not going to work if we don't have full support to do the things that we're going to do. And it's not going to represent a 1-1 scenario if you're looking at it in that aspect. Again, all of these videos will show you that, let's say the Orange Pi 5 has 8 cores, or the Pi 4 has 4 cores, or another single board computer has 6, and another one has 2. And then you look at that as the sole basis of making a important decision, especially with these things now going up to $200. And then you find out that you're running into all of these other complications just to make it happen. And so I just wanted to share with all of you some of the things that go on behind the scenes in terms of development. So maybe you guys have a better understanding as to why that this could be an issue, or why companies will want their single board computers demonstrated or reviewed before there's any type of development. Because again, you're not going to be the wiser unless you're programming it yourself and you're running into these types of issues. Again, if this issue was aware when they released it, then Armia would have already known about it and already had a script. But again, they're only acknowledging it because we're bringing up a concern, we're bringing up an issue based upon our 8 months into development getting it to this point. And I had a company reach out to me. Again, it was, I'm not going to say the name of the company, but they wanted us to do development on it. And they said, no, just go ahead and just show the desktop environment, run some games and stuff on it. And I said, well, that's kind of misleading because gaming, for example, runs differently in different environments. Like retropie doesn't have Vulkan support. Most of the time you guys will see the most optimized gaming, for example, on desktop or different interface, maybe Android, because it supports Vulkan, and that's not going to be the same experience you have within a gaming interface. And so to me, and maybe many others, that is misleading, because if I show you a video with somebody running PlayStation 2 from desktop, and then you get really excited and then you download, let's say, Batacera or retropie, running the same ROM, the same emulator, and I got videos on all this, and you're going to get a different performance value than you would with that desktop running scenario. And then, of course, that's not factoring in the other additional elements that we're telling you we're running into right now. So I'll give you guys more videos like this, but I just wanted to share with you. I was going to make a post, but again, this is why you cannot tell people that, oh yeah, we'll get this up and running on this single board computer and this and that'll run without some type of proper development, because small things like this could railroad your entire project without additional proper development. And you don't know anything until you about that single board computer until you get into development. If you guys watch my original video when I bought the Orange Pi 5, I got it back, what was that, back in January or February, and I said we'll try to get it to work, but we'll have to see. I mean, I'm kind of skeptical, but we'll have to see. But again, I'm pleased with where the Orange Pi 5 now is, but again, this is just to give you some additional history, some additional insight as to what goes on behind the scenes when you see these videos and quickly people are trying to sell their single board computers. They're trying to sell it and tout it as the latest and greatest thing with no development whatsoever. So again, guys, make sure you guys like and subscribe. I will catch you later. I'm kiodiekin. Peace out and have a great day.